Yo.
Hey everybody, it's Teach It Tuesday, and you know what that means. We're coming at you with a new tutorial. Today's video, we're going to feature the Patterns for Pirates Hepburn top and dress. We are going to be doing the cropped Mock Turtleneck Tank. So that's the pieces you need. You'll have a front, you'll have a back, and this pattern actually goes from sizes 3 months up to girls 14. So that's really awesome. Big size range there for one pattern. Okay, so you need a front piece and a back piece, and you do need to pay attention to the arm side. There is an arm side for the sleeved version, and there's an arm side for the tank version. So make sure that you cut the tank version, which is going to be the closer in arm side. So I've cut that front and back, and then of course we need the mock turtleneck, which is not the fold over one. You can do the fold over one too. I like the way the mock looks. It makes it look really sophisticated for this kind of pattern. Sorry you guys, I'm 30 weeks pregnant. Starting to catch my breath, or starting to take my breath away. So if I start breathing crazy, just know it's this little bun in the oven. Okay. All right, so you will need some 3/8 clear elastic. I did this pattern the other day with knit elastic. It worked just fine. I went ahead and got some clear elastic to see how it works and if I find a difference between the clear elastic and the knit elastic. The elastic measurements are in the chart, the cut chart in the pattern, so it's not an actual pattern piece, it's a measurement in the cut chart. All right, so I've already got my pieces cut out, and let's see what it looks like. All right, so I have my 2 elastic pieces, and these are just gonna go into the arms to give it more stability. I really wouldn't omit them because your fabric is going to grow in that area if you do omit them, and you could add, I guess, a binding type thing here, but it's included to fold over here. So I've got my back and my front right sides together, and I have my turtleneck piece here, which was cut on a fold, and the front and the back were cut on a fold as well. But I've got my piece here. This is the turtleneck piece cut on one fold. You just fold it again this way, like this. So you're going to do the shoulder seams here. This pattern does include a 1/2 inch seam allowance, which is a little bit different, so make sure you're paying attention to that. So you're just going to do your shoulders first. I'm going to use my serger. You could use a zigzag stitch on a sewing machine, and that's fine. So we're just going to do the shoulder seams first. I'll be right back. Okay, so I just put these right sides together and did the shoulder seams here. So you're going to open it up, and we're going to put the right side down, wrong side up, and then we're going to go ahead and clip or pin our elastic. So what you're going to need to do is find the middle of your elastic to match that up with the shoulder. So fold it in half and find that middle point. Same thing with the other piece, just to have a middle point to go on. And again, if you get to this point and you're like, what do I cut my elastic at? It's in the cut chart. So don't forget that to find your measurement per the size that you're doing. I'm doing a 2T top. Oops, dropped a pin. I better grab it before I forget. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to grab my pins here, and pretty much what you're going to do is you're just going to apply the elastic to the arm side. So what I'm going to go ahead, it's a little sticky. I'm going to go ahead and grab that, match up that point with the shoulder seam here. And you're wanting to be basically right up against the edge. You use a 1/4 inch seam allowance, but if you're using a serger, you're not going to cut any off. So you're going to turn your knife off to do this. So you're going to want to pin it. And I would recommend pinning or clipping this. I tried it yesterday without the clips, and it took a little while, and it was a little wonky for my taste. So I like to go ahead and pin it, because you can always remove the pins but can't always fix it if you didn't add the pins. So I'm going to use my serger to apply this elastic, but you can absolutely use a sewing machine with a 1/4 inch seam allowance if you don't have a serger. Do the same thing with this one. 3 pins. Flip it around here. And so I'm literally just putting this elastic flat around the arm side. So you're going to have to finagle it a little bit when you're sewing to fit the arm side, because of course it's a curve and this is a straight piece. So you're going to have to stretch it to make sure that it's staying on the curve. And I'm putting it right up against the edge here because I'm going to turn my knife off on my serger so that it doesn't cut any off. I'm going to stretch this just a little bit. But the elastic does give it more stability and make sure that those armholes don't grow out over time and keeps them kind of snug to the body. This would actually really make a cute dance top with some maybe biker shorts or something like that. It would make a really cute top, or ballerina skirt. That's what it reminded me of when I made it for my daughter. Okay, so we've got those on there, and you'll just stretch it to fit, pretty much like that. Stretch it to fit the hole. So then we're gonna go ahead and get this prepared too, and we'll go over to the serger and I'll bring you guys with me. But here's the mock turtleneck. So you cut it on a fold like this. Of course, stretch is going around the neck. Ham hot method, hamburger this way, hot dog this way. That's how I prepare all my cuffs. And then you'll insert the folded edge in of the raw edge and then serge that shut. So let's go over to the sewing machine, and we can pretty much finish this out over the sewing machine and the cover stitch. Don't forget, if you don't have a serger or a cover stitch, this can be done entirely on a sewing machine, and I'll be adding that in as we go, what you would do if you have a sewing machine. So let's go over to the serger. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this turtleneck piece out of the way. So we got our cuff prepared, that prepared over there. Putting the folded edge in first. Remember that 1/2 inch seam allowance. Alright, sorry the camera's a little shaky. But my machine, I actually oiled it. And so it's a lot quieter now. And this is the oil that I used to oil my machine. Got it on Amazon. And I also got this cool little thingy. Oh, if I can grab it. This cool little, it's really dirty right now, but this cool little brush to help clean out everything and kind of brush the oil on. It's pretty cool, Amazon. So I need to 1/4 this piece here because it's basically just like an oversized neckband. It's pretty much what it is. So I made those 2 snips here. I'm going to use this point, and I'm just going to match those up so that when we add this piece, it is perfectly stretched for the neck. So I'm going to match up those 2 points, the back seam with those 2 snip points, and do some side points here and here. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and turn my knife off so that it's not going to be cutting, and you can just double check by you know, using your hand wheel. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put this under here, and then I'm going to remove my pin. Alright, so you have to be really careful with this elastic. You want it to go underneath here before you start pulling it. So you're just going to pull it and go right along the edge here. And if you didn't have a serger, you would be using a sewing machine, and you'd just be using a shortened zigzag stitch on your sewing machine to do this with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So alright, remove your pins as you go. Don't forget that. You can dull a blade real quick if you do forget that. And so just go slow, keeping that elastic on the edge. And so this is what it's looking like here. And we'll flip it down and top stitch it in just a moment. Alright, so I'm just going to cut it. And cut it. And so that's what it looks like when it's on there. And when you go through and top stitch it down, you'll just flip it over like this and pull it, and it'll work fine. To be honest, I'm already feeling like I prefer the knit elastic over the clear elastic because the clear elastic tends to move a lot. So, for what it's worth, I think I'd rather use the knit elastic. Just my opinion. You may have a different one. Alright, so make sure that goes in there before I should start pulling this. Alright. Okay. And you shouldn't have to pull too tight, whether you're using knit or clear, because it's a 1-to-1 ratio, so it should fit perfectly. And again, the purpose of the elastic is just to add stability to these armholes. That's it. Alright, so I'm going to cut there. Alright, so then what we're going to do is go over here to the cover stitch and top stitch these down. If you don't have a cover stitch, go to your sewing machine and just use a shortened zigzag again to fold this down right here. The elastic part, fold it over, and then just zigzag stitch along the edge. There is where you're going to zigzag stitch. So I'm going to use my cover stitch just because I have it and I want to use it. Alright, so I went back and used knit elastic. If you are familiar with how to use the clear elastic, go right ahead. But me and knit elastic just jive better. So I'm going to go ahead and fold it here. I'm just going to redo that cover stitch. Fold it down. It's just easier, in my opinion. And it's easier to feel, too, to know what you're sewing on. So I'm going to use 3/8 knit elastic. Make sure we're catching it, oh, barely. Perfect. This is what the inside looks like, and that is what the outside of the sleeve looks like. So I'm just going to go ahead and snip my tails here, snip my tails here. We're going to do the other side just like that. Same thing, flip it, top stitch that elastic down, and you're just stretching it just enough to lay flat. That's the only goal with stretching. We have got that cover stitch down, and now we're going to go back over here to the serger or sewing machine if that's all you got. And again, like I said, if you didn't have a cover stitch, all you would need to do to top stitch that down is use a shortened zigzag stitch. I like to do mine at 3.5 length. Okay, so we've got our top sides here, cover stitch here and here. We're going to go back to the serger to do right sides together on our side seams. All right, back to the serger. Flip this to where it's wrong sides together, or sorry, right sides together. Match up your shoulder points here. Make sure that you turn your knife back on. You can double check it by using your hand wheel. Okay, and so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and start with the bottom edge first. Don't forget that 1/2 inch seam allowance, and you want this part here to be very, very defined and matched up. Okay, so 1/2 inch seam allowance. Be really careful when you get here because you are going to be cutting off that elastic here. So I find the slower you go there, the easier it is. So I'm going to cut my tail kind of long there. Not really going to care about this one because it's going to be hemmed. But this one right here, we are going to tuck this with this nitpicker. So I'm going to go back about 1 inch into the seam, pop this out, and pull this tail back through. And so that secures that seam so that this part right here will not unravel. All right. Same thing with the other side. Right sides together. Match up your armpit all the way down to the bottom. I'm going to start with the bottom edge. I just find that easier because I feel like if you start with this big bulky edge, it's harder to keep it aligned. Don't forget that 1/2 inch seam allowance. And go slow over this bulky part. Alright, cut that tail kind of long. Cut this one off. And then tuck this again right here. Okay. And then cut the excess off. Alright, so now our arms are done, and that's what they look like, and they're stretchy here. And they have stability, they look nice. So I'm going to go ahead and quarter up my neck hole here. So we know shoulder seam to shoulder seam is going to get us the perfect front and back. Front is lower in the front, of course, and the back is higher in the back. Okay, so we have our 2 middle points. You're going to match those up now to get your perfect side point here, which is about a little over 3/4 of an inch above your shoulder seam, or in front of your shoulder seam. Okay, so we've got all 4 points here. Now, we're going to add our turtleneck. You need 4 pins or clips, whatever you use. The garment is still inside out. Band, I'm going to use the back seam for the back. And I'm going to put it inside here and match it up here. And then go around and just match up my points. The hardest part of this is the elastic, and like I said, if you're not familiar with clear elastic, knit elastic works just as good. I went ahead and went back and changed mine to knit elastic because I didn't really like how thin and flimsy the other elastic made it feel. Okay, so I'm going to start here on the side seam. Just going to put that underneath my serger, move my pin and get started, and then I'll go ahead and stretch out my neckband to lay flat on my cuff, or my neck hole to lay flat on the cuff. Okay, and then I also do have a Tagtopia on Etsy is where I get mine, and I just use one of these little wonder clips to hold the tags folded like this. And then when I get to the back seam, I'll go ahead and add that tag in. Alright, so we're at the back seam, but I like to go ahead and get the next leg ready. The next leg of this curve. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put my tag in, just lay it flat. And that tag's on now. Alright, now we're back to the middle front. Just making sure the two raw edges of the cuff, or the turtleneck, and the one raw edge of the actual neck hole are lined up. little stretch here, and then all we got to do is hem it, and we'll be done. It really is a cute little simple top. And you absolutely do not have to do the crop, but I like the crop because it's perfect for summer. It'd pair really cute with some high-waisted pants, maybe some paper bag pants, high-waisted skirt. Anything high-waisted, I think this is going to look adorable with. And like I said, it also doubles as a dance piece, in my opinion. Anyway, so I'm going to take my thing off here, and there's my tag perfectly in the back. That's how I add my tags. Alright, so then you flip your little neck out. And so that's what it's going to look like inside out. Of course, the neck, the arms. We're going to go back over to the cover stitch again. If you do not have a cover stitch, you can hem this bad boy. I like to use, before I got my cover stitch, I like to use a combination of my serger and my sewing machine. But again, if you don't have a serger, you don't have to worry about that. But what I did, I turn all my knobs up here, the yellow, the pink, the green, the blue. Turn all them to 0, and then I just serge around the edge, not cutting anything off really, just serge around the edge. That's what I did, and then I go over to my sewing machine and use a shortened zigzag stitch, flip it up, and this pattern has a inch seam allowance, so you're gonna do it like that. Of course, okay. I found that this pattern was a little short in my opinion, so I'm just gonna do a 1/2 inch seam allowance, but the pattern actually says inch seam allowance. I'm gonna go ahead and do 1/2 inch, just my preference. You do what you want to do. But I find that if you go ahead and serge it, if you do have a serger, serge around the edge with the knobs at 0, and then use your sewing machine to hem it. I find it looks better and it acts better when you're going around. It's not as stretched and wonky. It holds it all together. Also, it makes it look like a cover stitch did it. But do what you need to do. I'm going to use my cover stitch because I got it. Okay, so I'm just going to hem this 1/2 inch. So what that means is I'm just going to fold it like this. And pretty much I just have a feel for it now. You can absolutely measure if you're not sure. I like to get started and then go ahead and just fold it around as I go. And you can always just double check to make sure that you are actually getting it. I like to go ahead and cut my start pieces so it's easier for me to overlap. And you just overlap. Make sure your needle's in up position. Pull those strings, lift your foot. Put your snippers under there to pull those strings back. Oops. To pull those strings back. Have to put those back in a minute. Alright, so that pulls them in the back. You don't have to worry about knotting it. And that is perfect. So let's go see the finished product. And this is what it looks like. Get your elastic to look good. This is what it looks like. It's going to look a lot cuter on an actual model because the elastic kind of makes it wrinkle just a little bit. But it's super cute. But that's how you make the Hepburn cropped mock turtleneck tank. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure that you're commenting what you guys want to see. Of course, if you have a question, don't be shy to drop that in the comments. And if you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and subscribe. We'll put out a new video every Tuesday. And a big thank you for helping us hit 10K. We just hit 10,000 followers, and that's amazing. We thank you so much for that. So just huge shout out for you guys. Thank you so much. We love being able to do this, and we love helping mamas make clothes, and we love helping small businesses thrive, giving you new ideas and trying to help boost your creativity. So hope you love this pattern, hope you love this video, and we'll see you guys next Tuesday. Bye.